It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Tuesday, April 2nd, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi in the media, the practical word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Tuesday. Monday is officially in the books. I'm so happy that Monday is over. April 1st, well, actually for me I'm still recording on April Fool's Day, so it's still, it's still that day. But yeah. Hope you guys have had a wonderful Monday. Don't forget we have Q&A Thursday every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is Resurrection of Jesus' Spirit and the Spirit's Advent. All right, so it is officially Tuesday, guys. I am very, very excited and happy because for those of you guys in the English world, remember tonight we have the Rebel Pastor Livestream podcast, 6 p.m. LA and 9 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure you check that out. Everyone else in Asia, we're not going to have it until tomorrow morning, until Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Malaysia, 10 a.m. Korea, so we're not really worried about that. But I'm very, very excited, very, very happy. Just make sure... As, I'm going to repeat this because this is what Sunsteam said. So this is the way I am going to convince you guys to share 3 to 3 people every day. Guys, I got shorts coming out. I got video clips and everything else, all with thumbnails. So you can easily share them every single day. As Sunsteam said, everyone should be part of internet ministry. So share it with 3 people every single day, right? So, yes, in the Monday podcast, I have people like commenting and calling me about the April Fool's joke, people responding to it, and it seems like most people did get fooled. Most people did, right? Most people did get fooled, at least in the beginning. You just read in the comments, you're going to see all the people that got fooled and stuff like that too. Some people tried to fool me back, but I'm going to tell you this. Yeah, it's not easy to try to fool me back, right? But I had there's just one cool comment I want to read, okay? It says, "Wow, you did catch me off guard. I was like, oh crap, and immediately already doing mental exercises of the Lord, having a greater will for me, Pastor Sky, going back to head leading. But when I thought twice, it was just too off and not the usual Sunsteam way of speaking. And then wait, hope it's just a bad joke. And of course, it is April Fool's." And the reason why I really like this comment is because I like it how automatically this person went into a mental exercise. Like, okay, wait a second. So what is the deal here? Like, yeah, there's got to be a bigger will. Oh, there's something that we don't know. And I think that's one of the healthiest things that we're getting out of this this podcast is going through these mental exercises. A lot of people called with concerns like, hey, thank you so much for joking, right? So, it's good. I'm still happy that people still have a good sense of humor, that people enjoyed the April Fool's joke, and people trying to get me back and stuff like that too. But yeah, thank you so much for not just totally destroying me. Like, oh, how can you use Sunsteam's name like that, right? So, but I think it was fun. I thought it was funny. Some people, I had one person like, not funny. And obviously it sounds like a girl, not a guy. Guys don't say that stuff, like not funny. It's like more of a girl thing, right? So, yeah, very, very thankful, very grateful. But you know what? I got April Fool today too. If you guys check out my Instagram, man, like I took a shower, everything else, getting my podcast ready, went out to get a cup of coffee, and like just poop. This dog, like one of the dogs pooped in the house. I was like, oh my gosh. So I cleaned up the poop, went back into my room, started doing more of my podcast, right? And then what happens is I come out of my room after like my final preparations before recording, and then I look on the other side. The other dog peed on the floor inside the house. I was like, ah! right? And then I clean the pee, and as I clean the pee, I look up and I'm like, wait a second. And I look, and then I saw that the first dog actually also peed on the massage chair. Like there's pee around the massage chair, and I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, these dogs, I don't know. I think it's God. Like me doing this April Fool's joke, and then God turns around and does this April Fool's joke on me, which I'm okay with because I April Fooled everyone else on my podcast, and now God uses the dogs to April Fool's me, right? And I'm thinking to myself as like, we're only halfway through the day. I wonder how many other things are going to happen today. Ha 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 ha. You'll find out tomorrow if there are any more things that happened on April Fool's Day, but yeah, I'm thinking that I should be alone today, or else more things are going to happen. I don't know. I really like thank you so much for everyone who is voted on the polls. I think we had almost 100 people vote on it, and very, very pleasantly surprised and thankful and grateful. 97% said that Provi the media was a benefit to them and it was not harmful. And that's a huge sign for me. And it makes me very, very grateful and thankful that I felt like it's a sign that I did it the right way. Like I wasn't like leaning to one side or the other, but tried my best to do it in a way that's not going to, that's not going to be emotional, not going to overstep my boundaries. And I try to say that I try to do it in an unbiased way, but more than being an unbiased way, it's kind of helping a member, someone who is on the member side, to not overreact and to think about it properly, right? Because I'm on Providence's side, so it's very, very hard to say that I'm unbiased. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to say that. But coming from the perspective of someone who is in Providence, how should we deal with this emotion, or how should we react to those things that were happening in 2023? I think that's kind of the better way of putting it. And I think it gives me more confidence to write a letter to Sunseem about how good the podcast has been, like the benefits of it. Because there's a couple things that I'm very thankful for. Number one is I'm thankful that this podcast was not made because of the trials or because of the things going on. You know what I mean? Like, we've had this channel for over 4 years now, which means that even before 2023 hit, we were already 3 years going. You know what I mean? Like, we're already 3 years in. We had our own programs and everything else. This podcast was definitely not about the trials. And that makes me very, very confident too that, hey, Sunseem, this podcast was about the word. It was about community. It was about the news. It was about talking about important topics in Providence for the Western countries. And Provi the media was just if you think about it, out of the last 4 years, it didn't even start to the last year when 2023 came up. That's when Provi the media actually came up. Right? And it started from I think from March. So, I am thankful that this podcast was not for Provi in the media, because in the event Sunseem says, oh, no more Provi in the media, I'm okay because I still have tons of other programming on this. Like, Provi in the media is one section. There's 3 sections a day, which means I have 15 sections a week, and Provi in the media is one. Right? Which means that it's not a huge deal. And that's why, for me, I think that's what makes our podcast a little bit different than everyone else's, is that we are not just about the trials, just to want to keep everyone updated on what's happening. That's totally not what we're about. We're about the word. We're about what's going on in the history. There's a lot of things that we're talking about, like, even more than even more, it's more than just it's more than just for Sunseem's trial. And we're not here spreading rumors. I was really, really making sure that we're not spreading rumors, but only things that are absolutely confirmed, right? So that's kind of one of the things that I do think that I need to be very confident in. And that even if Sunseem does, maybe he gets a report from somewhere else, but I can still be confident and say, oh, Sunseem, this is what I've been doing. This is what we've, these are like the reactions we've had. This is how many people it's helped, this and that. And I think that's something that I really, really feel that will be a benefit for the future. right? So I'm going to do a new poll now. This new poll for this week, I'm going to talk about how do you feel about your faith right now? Right? Of course, last year we've gone through a lot of different things, but I want to check on everyone this year after 316 is done. People are we're kind of settled, not settled in, but we're more of, I don't know what the right word is. We've kind of reached that point where, we've gone through everything we need to go through. People are recovering. Some people are still in recovery, and that's okay. So everyone's going to take different amounts of time, but I just want to see how you feel about your faith right now. Is it great in peak condition, like better than it was pre-COVID? Or is it good, I'm back in action? Is it just okay, still grinding? Not good, struggling with basic faith, or bad, like don't ask kind of thing, right? And I think it's a good indicator of how things have changed and are becoming better and better. And I do, like, just looking at all the polls that we've done, just to see how people are doing, it looks like I think it's going to be much better than what we did in the past. I'm going to take a look at the past polls too, just to see what we had in the past and how we can compare to 2023, right? I think it's a good indicator of how things are changing and becoming better and better, right? I will be heading to Korea in 2 weeks. I leave on the 18th. So yeah, it's just a little over 2 weeks I'll be going to Korea. I'm very, very excited about this. Very excited. Right? So, yes, Internet Ministry Department, that's going to be exciting. But now also excited about the volleyball tournament. 18 teams are participating, including a team from Taiwan, another team from Japan. I am going to do some live streams with my Instagram of some of the games that are going on for Japan and Taiwan, because I know those teams are just awesome. So I'm super excited about it. And, for me, I'm a guy. I love competition. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if all guys like it, but I like the competition. It's one of the few things that actually gets me super excited at this age, right? Like, right now, the live streams on YouTube, that gets me excited. It's exciting because it's live. That's like, it gets my heart pumping. I get nervous, but it's exciting. Like, wow, this is live. All my mistakes, everything just comes out. I'm excited about that. I really am. So that's one thing, like those are two things right now in my life that really, really make me excited, right? And, the one thing that I think that I like about competition like sports and like even say YouTube right now, what's so interesting is because I'm, as a guy, I like numbers. I like tangible things. I like things that you can see. I like things that you can count and measure. Right? Like on YouTube, I'm going to look at my stats and say, oh, wow, look at MSD right now. Some things I'll look at is, we're getting roughly about 6.3 thousand views for every 4 weeks, right? And the watch hours are incredible. Like, think about this. I get 17,000 views per 4 weeks, which means it's 3 times more than what I get on MSD, but it has like maybe a third of the watch hours, and mainly because we have these 5 podcasts a week and everyone's listening to at least 20 to 25 minutes per time, right? So when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that's why it's, for me, I'm like, oh, this is exciting. Oh, this is exciting. I get to see the numbers. I like the statistics. I like seeing the subs. I like seeing the views. I like seeing like how many, what's the girl to guy ratio watching, which countries are watching the most, like real numbers. It's for me as a guy, these tangible things make me excited, right? And I think it's a guy thing. I really do. Like, think about this. When we think about why do guys like cars have statistics too. How fast does it go? 0 to 60 miles per hour. Oh, it goes in 3 seconds. Oh, it goes in 4 seconds. Oh, it's got 500 horsepower. Oh, look at the 2,000 pounds of torque. Like, we like those things. We want to know how much it is. Oh, look at that, the Bentley. Oh, look at that Rolls Royce, right? And we look at the price tag. Like, yesterday, a friend of mine was telling me about this new car that's coming out in Malaysia, a new EV from a company called Proton. It's tiny. An EV, it was like I saw the picture. They sent me the picture, and I was like, oh, cool. And there's a picture with a cute girl in front of it, right? And I was like going, and the person sent me the picture and said, oh, look, it's so cute, like so cute. And I was like, oh, the girl? Like, no, the car. She didn't care that it was an EV. And this EV, like for me, as in, when I research about EVs, the biggest thing for me is the range, right? I don't really care about how fast it goes. What's the range? In one charge up, how many kilometers can it go? This small car only hits like 200 kilometer range. which means in actuality, it probably hits about 120 to 140 per charge, right? And I'm thinking about, oh, how fast does it go? What's the range of it? But they just showed me the pic and said, oh, it's cute. I want to get it. And I was like, you want to get it because it's cute? You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely, like, I wouldn't buy a car just because it looks cool. I need to see the engine. I need to see this. I need to see the range. I need to see some power. I need to see all these other different things, right? And I think that's why guys like sports and cars and electronics, right? Like when sports, I want to know the batting percentage. I don't know how many points they scored. I don't know what's their completion percentage. When I was in LA visiting my cousins, we were watching an NFL football game, and there's this guy named Joe Burrow. He's a quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got like the 69% completion percentage. He passes over like 250 yards a game, and he's going to the Super Bowl in his second year or third year in the league. And we're all talking about how many yards he threw last game, this and that. And then my cousin walks in and says, "Who is that? He's so cute," right? And, it's kind of like, all right. And it's got, for us guys are like, whatever, right? We don't care if they're cute, good looking or not. If they can pass the ball, that is everything, right? If they win games. But then the funny thing was that we met an intersection where we both became interested. So this guy gets a brand new contract and $55 million a year. And of course, both guys and girls are like, whoa, right? So that, that's kind of the intersection where guys and girls can kind of meet in there, because when it comes to the money, like finances and stuff, that's an important thing for both guys and girls, right? So I find that very, very interesting. Like, I find it very interesting. But I'm sure girls are out there like, yeah, you probably, be honest with me, girls. Do you really care about statistics? Really? Like, even when it comes to evangelism, I don't think the girls care about the statistics. I think the girls would probably care more about taking care of people, how people feel, right? Not so much about how long did it take, how many people did you meet before you actually evangelize someone, what's the percentage of people that you're, like those things I don't think girls really care about. And I think a lot of guys probably may not care about also, but for myself, I would say it's very interesting to me because it's information that helps you to move forward into the future. It really is, right? So, yeah. Oh, I heard some great news. I heard some great and wonderful news. So I heard some great news and very, very hopeful and thankful news, right? And some friends of mine, they've been blessed. I'm like super excited. And these are young people too. Young people, passionate, have great faith and everything else. And this one country had their blessing last year in 2023. I'm not going to name the name now because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the name or not. But I know that some people are putting out pictures now of their their matches and they're being coupled. But I'm super happy. Like, that's not the important point. I'm just super happy, right? But think about that. They had a blessing in 2023 during the most chaotic time. That is so crazy. And I'm sure, think about this. I'm sure people might have said it was way too early to do it. 2023 was a bad time. But when you look at the results, it was definitely from God. It truly was. It makes me so happy to see people being blessed in a time of turmoil, because it gives hope to many people to see something so amazing happen in such a difficult time. It just shows that God is still working. Even in the most difficult, in the most, the times that are so hard, God is still working. And that's, even for me, I'm just like, wow, they did it. That's brave. That's courageous. But even when I look at the people that got blessed, these are young people, right? In their 20s. And I'm like, wow, we need BF like that. The young BF, the ones that are great in faith, the ones that are really passionate still. They want to do more for this history, and they can still do it. They can still run, right? And they're still young. It's not like for instance, imagine if people get married a lot later in life, then the urgency comes more towards having children sooner because there's not enough time. But when you're young like this, wow. For me, I was really inspired. Just hearing the news, I heard, I saw a picture and I was like, whoa, that's my friend. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for him. And then as I talked to more people in that country, they're like, oh, me too. I was like, what? Yeah, I was so happy. so pleasantly surprised, pleasantly shocked. And I thought it was a beautiful thing that happened. And it happened the proper way. They went through the blessing the way God wants it to happen, the way that it made me happy to know. Because, I talked about sometimes there's like the things that happen in the wrong way. Like people will go outside and start doing things on the outside, right? And so, sometimes I do know why. I understand some situations, but generally speaking, it's so much better to see it happen like in the way that it's supposed to. It's a beautiful thing, right? And, yeah, things are going to happen and we're not the ones who are going to judge, right? But it's just great to see these things happening too. And, so many things bad happened last year. People doing things in ways that shouldn't be done. But it's really good to see things being done the way that, that God intended it to too, right? And, I'm just looking at the positive side because I do know that there's probably some people that didn't get matched also, and that needs to be dealt with too, right? Everyone has a different situation, circumstance. So I'm not here to say that, everyone else who did it the other way is wrong or bad. I'm totally not saying that either. What I'm saying is, yeah, there's always a situation, circumstance that come up for every person. And we also need to know that, it's a beautiful thing to see things happen according to the way that God intended to, right? So I am super happy for all my friends and the members that have been blessed, right? And I'm excited. I can't wait. Like I'm going to, the thing I'm most excited about? Like more than the actual blessing itself, this sounds really weird, but more than the blessing itself is just a sign to me that more babies are coming into Providence. And I love babies. I want to see these second generations just grow up to be so amazing. I would love to be the babysitter for all the babies at once. I would do it for every baby at once, right? Because, that's great news. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to see new babies come into Providence. I can't wait. And, one of the things is... Yeah, I'm just super happy. It makes me very, very happy to see these types of things happening. It really does. And I'm excited. I'm very, very excited for them. And I can't wait to see like the other countries. They're eventually probably going to go through their blessings this year or somewhere soon by this year or maybe the beginning of next year. It'll happen pretty soon, right? But I am very happy and excited for all those people who do get blessed. I am, right? And like I said, the blessing is just one step closer to more cute babies coming into Providence. And I want to see like I wouldn't mind just lying on the ground in the baby room and then you have like 100 babies just all crawl towards me and then like dogpile me and because I don't know. I don't know, guys. Babies are too cute. They are, yeah. I don't know. Did that sound wrong? That didn't sound wrong, right? Did it sound wrong? I hope not. I wasn't meaning anything like that. Yeah. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see more babies come into this history. Right now, I really need another coffee. Like I have, at home right now, I ran out of drip bags. So I'm having these capsule coffees at home, man, and it doesn't do anything for me. Like I will drink a bit of it and then I'll throw away like the other half of the cup, right? But it's the only thing that's available, which means I have no choice but to make it and drink it, right? Like, oh man, I can't wait to get my own place and have my own coffee machine and just make my own coffees the proper way, right? And yes, guys, no dogs or cats. And I hope the dogs outside can hear me say that. No dogs or cats and no pets. I'm still angry about the poop and pee this morning, right? So much work. The feeding, the grooming, the cleaning, the training. Ugh. Pets. I would rather have a big screen TV and a great sound system than a pet. I would. Or a nice car. Or better furniture. That's what I would rather have. And I hope the dogs outside hear me talking like this. And I'm saying this only because of this moment in time. And maybe it's because these two dogs are driving me crazy this morning. Maybe it's just because of that. Right? But it's one thing is I think I'm going to stay in Malaysia for a little bit longer. Since now I know my direction, my YouTube team is here for the live streams. So they're really, really helping me out with like this. And I can really see myself being in Malaysia for a little longer now that I know my direction. Of course, I don't know for like the far future, but I think at least in the near future meaning 1 to 2 years. I would say that would be the near future. And, I like Malaysia because it's an Asian country, very kind people. Plus, everyone speaks English, which is the huge thing that I love, the communication. It's very close and cheap to fly to Korea, very close to Japan and Taiwan, other major countries that I can learn from. And, will I end up living here? I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. But we'll see. At least I know that I can be here for the short future, meaning at least 1 to 2 years. I'll have some I'll know that I'll be here for that time. But, I know that this year I do want to take a short trip to Canada. Not sure when, but I do want to take a short trip to Canada. I definitely want to do that too. So it just feels like, for me, it feels like now that I have a direction, it feels like more things are falling into place at this moment in time. I'm hoping that eventually everything will fall into place, which includes YouTube, my faith, my finances, all that stuff will kind of come together. And the one thing that I do need to have that absolute trust and faith in is that I can do as much as I can, my responsibility, but ultimately there's so many things that I have no control of. And this is kind of where God is in the driver's seat. I'm not even the navigation seat. I'm not going to even tell God where to go. I'm going to be in the back seat and I'm going to enjoy the trip and I'm going to massage. When the driver gets tired, you massage them, you give them snacks and food. That's what I want to do, right? Let God take care of things, do my own responsibility. And the things that I can't do on my own, this is where God has to come in and God kicks in, right? So I'm very grateful and thankful, guys, to God that I had that dream, that I have my direction. And now I think more and more things will start to fall into place. I really do. So I'm very grateful and thankful. And every day I'm giving thanks to God that I have this direction and something that I can do more and more. Okay. Today's practical word study is going to be a little bit different because Easter just passed by. Monday wasn't just April Fool's Day. It was also Resurrection Monday, right? So since Easter just passed, I want to talk about why Easter is so important to the former faith and realizations of what our time right now should be and what we should be thinking about, especially when we think long-term in the future for the next 1,000 years. All right? So before we get into the practical word study, let's move into the first music break of the day. right, so let's get into today's practical word study. And I want to do something a little bit different, mainly because Easter just passed, and a lot of people, especially being, in the new history and living at a time with the old history, we do need to know about why Easter is so important for everyone in the former faith, okay? So I did want to go over a little bit of this so we can understand how important or how big this really is. And like Sunseem said in the Sunday message, it is the biggest and greatest celebration. It is equivalent to the Passover for the Jews, where Moses saved Israel from Egypt, right? And if you really think about this, we don't really know much about Passover. We know about the story of Passover in the Old Testament, Moses and the 10 plagues, the splitting of the Red Sea. God works through Moses to save the Israelites from slavery, right? And Moses is the most important character, central figure in the Old Testament time, okay? And in this week's message, Sunseem does talk about the parallels. Just as remember, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15, Moses says that there will be another person just like him who will be raised just like Moses, right? And who is this? It's obviously Jesus. So the parallel is Moses saved Israel from being slaves or servants to becoming free people, okay? And in the same way, Jesus does the exact same thing by saving the world from being in a time period of servants and slaves to be free people and live as children of God, right? So they had the exact, a very similar type of event that actually happened, right? So if you think about it, the two greatest celebrations in God's history right now revolve around the greatest central figures, Moses and Jesus. And that's why the two greatest celebrations that you'll have people in the Old Testament time, the New Testament time, is the Passover, and it's going to be Easter, okay? So for Christians, right? So for people who believe in Jesus and are children of God, why is Easter considered the greatest day, right? It is considered the day of salvation. Right? The greatest sign that happened to mankind is the Messiah came to help and to save mankind, and he was killed on the cross, and then he resurrected. So if you think about it, if he dies and everything just ends there, then he becomes just like any other person that came before him. He's not extra special. He doesn't have that power. He doesn't have that divinity that people think, because he died just like everyone else. But instead, what happened was he resurrected 3 days later. The resurrection means that not even death could stop Jesus. The resurrection is the moment everyone can 100% believe that not even death could get in our way. So you wonder why there's so many people that martyred themselves for Jesus. They gave their lives up because it comes from this concept of resurrection of, hey, guess what? Even though I die, I'll give my life up for Christ. Why? Because even though I die, I'll resurrect. That was the hope that we had, was the resurrection, right? Look at Acts chapter 2, verse 24. Paul says God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the it's not even Paul. I think it's Luke who wrote this. Freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. The death is the one thing that many people are afraid of. And because of that fear of death, when you believe in Jesus and he says that you will still live forever, the greatest sign to show people that this is true was the resurrection. That's why Jesus in John chapter 11, verse 25 says, I am the resurrection and the life, that whoever believes in me will live even though they die. People know at this point, this is the sign. 100% from this point on, Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. He is divine. And this becomes the sticking point for the gospel for the next 2,000 years. The celebration, the sadness of his death and the resurrection, the celebration of Jesus being Christ. It marked the beginning of the gospel that we hear today. That's why when you hear for the last 2,000 years, what is the gospel? The gospel is Jesus died and rose again. That is the gospel. That is the central tenet of the gospel. And that's why resurrection is the big thing. But of course, one thing we do need to understand is now that we've come to this history, it was never meant to be that way. It became this way. It became the path of the cross because of the wickedness of the time period. And that is something we really need to understand really well. The Shimjung of God, the history of God never moved the most ideal way, the way that God actually wanted it. And don't you think all of us can say the same thing for providence too? That we have never really hit the most ideal path? If it was the most ideal path, would we even have a second trial? Would KJS be betrayed? Right? There wouldn't even be a first trial if it was supposed to happen the right way. Even in the grave period, look at the grave periods. The grave period repeated 4 times. And the one thing that I do think we all have to really understand is this all happens, it's because of us. Knowing ourselves, what we have done for this history, look at the responsibility of all the followers today, and especially looking at ourselves. Would you say that you contributed more to the path of glory or more to the path of the cross? How convicted were we? How much did we preach? How much did we shirk and hide? Yeah, there were some people that put their lives on the line. But think about this. You know what Sansim said before 2008, before the first trial? Sansim says you only need 5 people who are absolutely convicted for the history of God to run with their life on the line. And if you just have 5 people, you can turn a country upside down. So think about this, guys. What does it take to turn a country upside down? 5 people. Just 5. Look at how many people in your country. You just need 5. And then he proceeded to say that, I think he said you needed 21 people to flip the world upside down. And just like right now, do we have more than 21 people? Absolutely. Look at the number of people we have in this history. We don't even have that number of 21 people ready to turn the world upside down. At one point, Sasim did say, I was really excited when Sasim said this. He says, I'm going to pick 21 people to tour the world with me. That's what he said. And this is before, before all this happened. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, I wanted to be one of those 21 people that goes around with Sansim. I had that type of ambition. But that was all before all these things happened. There was still a chance of not going to the path of the cross. There was still a chance. Remember, the 4 grave periods repeat to see if they can restore it. And the first 3 grave periods is our responsibility. And then the 4th responsibility is going to be on God's side. And that's why Sansim had to set the condition. And he went to prison and stuff too. Resurrection Day, Easter, right? Easter, what is the equivalent of it in the Complete Testament? It's actually Rapture Day, 3:16. Rapture Day 3:16. When the gates of heaven are opened, the spirits go into the golden city with Jesus. It's the day that God's purpose of creation, the whole reason why he created all things, was finally completed. We have to understand this day is a marker in history. I don't know how it'll be in the future and how this day will be celebrated, but you got to look at history. Right? What I mean by how will this day be celebrated? This Rapture Day is not just the most important time in the Complete Testament, but it is the most important commemorative day in history where God's purpose of creation is finally fulfilled. It is the greatest day. And what I mean by I don't know how this day is going to be celebrated, just look at the history of Christianity too. Easter is celebrated by Christians all over the world. Passover is celebrated by Jews all over the world. But Easter is celebrated more. It's a national holiday in Christian countries, which, Passover is only a holiday in Israel. But in the future, we're going to see something like that happen for 316 Rapture Day. We're going to see it. Will we see it in our lifetime? I'm not sure. I doubt it. I doubt we'll see it in our lifetime. But we should do our best to fulfill our responsibility so that it can happen. Like, we really need to. We don't know how far history will go in our lifetime, how great it will become before we die. But we need to make sure that we fulfill it to the point where we can be part of it, where history becomes that much greater. You know, the funny thing is, when you really think about it, it's usually the generation that did not participate in the event that realizes the value even more because they wish they were there. It's almost like Paul. Paul never got to live with Jesus to hear the words directly, and he regretted so badly that it motivated him to be even that much greater. And that's why he went around the world 3 times preaching the gospel, right? And I think the same thing's going to happen. Like, all those people that come to this history after Sunseem dies, they were not participants in this history when Sunseem was living. They were not here for Rapture Day. They were not here for all the tribulation. They can only look back at us. And you know what's going to be pretty interesting? These people in the future that look back at history, that were never there to participate, that were never there to be there together with Sunseem, they're probably going to somewhat deify us. Like, these people were that great. This was the great generation. Went through the most difficult time, went through the biggest tribulation, lived together with Sunseem. And I actually thought to myself, is like, how comfortable would I be with that? Where you have people 500 years later that are going to look at like the MSD podcast, re-listen to them, understand what's happening in history through this podcast. Like, it's going to be very historical. But when I thought about it, I was like, wow, they're going to be looking at this, looking back, and they're going to be thinking certain thoughts about me. They're going to be thinking about me in a great way. It's like, oh, he was the first to understand the internet or whatever it was, right? And I was like, how comfortable would I be with that? Like, look at the way Christians look at Paul, Peter, John, the disciples. They're deified. How would I say deified? Not like they look at them as God. Like, look at St. Peter's Basilica. There's a statue of Peter. There's statues of John and James, the disciples, and Paul. They're all out there. They're looked so highly upon as the people who were the foundational generation. They're considered great in this history, the impact that they made. And there's going to come a time when the generations ahead of us will look at us, the normal, regular people like me and you, who are just like them. But they'll look at us in a very great way. And I thought to myself, like, wow, how would I feel about that? And then I thought to myself, is like, because we're just regular people just like them. But I also thought to myself, as I think about, Sunseem talked in the predestination lecture of Romans chapter 8, verse 30, that says, and those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. Which means there's 3 stages. There is, it would be the same as the public life, the private life, the public life, the grave period, and the resurrection, and the resurrected life. Like, such a figure goes through those 3 stages, which are the same as called, justified, glorified. Called is the public life. You go out to do the ministry, right? You go to do the work. Then you have the grave period, which is to be justified. Through your difficulties, you are justified as someone who is true to God, right? Going through the difficulties. And then the last one is you are glorified, right? And I thought to myself, is like, well, that could just be part of the glorification stage that we receive for staying until the end and doing the things that we need to do in the time when Sunseem was living. Right? There is a stage of glory that we receive, the prize that we get for sticking with God through all the difficult times. And I thought to myself then, I was like, oh, okay, then as we look at Peter and Paul, we see them as so great, but have no idea what they struggled with in their lifetime. And, they really, I would say that, yeah, in the same way, people who don't really know us personally, they really don't know how human we really are. Just as we don't know how human Paul and Peter and James and John, all these people were, like we deify them. But then I started to think about it even more, and I realized this is what glory is. Glory is to look at the parts that, even though we struggled in our own lives, we still achieved things. We still were able to be successful. We're still able to make history. It's greatness achieved despite the flaws or the imperfections. Imperfection, the things we're not good at yet, yeah, these are things that everyone has. No one is good, like perfect the way that God is. We were not. But we're going to be celebrated too for what was achieved, despite being human, right? It's kind of like that definition of courage. People can be called someone who has courage because despite the fear in their hearts, despite that fear, they were still able to get things done. Right? They're still able to go out and run and fight the battles in the war. And it just really made me think to myself is how much we really need to do well. Like we have to understand that even though we're going to struggle, even though we're going through difficulties, we're going through a mess, we're going through crazy things, we have gone through them. And despite those things that are happening, we still fight through it and we still make history happen. And that's what people are going to be remembered for, right? We're not going to be remembered, like for instance, when you look at KJS's like legacy, in the end, people are going to no longer look at all the great things she did because of the end point, right? Because of the end point, you can't help but look at all the negative or the bad things that actually happened. Which also means that when you look at Paul and Peter, they had a bunch of negative things that they did too, and probably things in their private life we don't even know about. Yet, because they're ending, they stuck to it, they stayed with God, they were there until the end, we're going to look at them in a very positive light and look at the positive things and say, wow, they made Peter deny Jesus 3 times, and yet he still pushed through, and yet he repented, and yet he did this. Where Judas Iscariot, we don't even look at any of the good things he did while he was following Jesus around for 3 years. That's why the ending is important. It really is. And I hope it's something that all of us can really get ourselves to understand at a much deeper level. We really got to understand this well. Yep, I 100% believe we're going to be looked upon very highly in the future. We're going to be deified. That's just reality. We are going to be deified to some level. We are. And I'm going to say that is something that is just going to come along with being in this history. And I think it's going to be something where we'll look at it and say, yeah, that's just the history that we're living in right now. That is. And part of the glory that we receive, that final stage, remember, glory is part of it. I know, of course, the truth is we're not doing it for the glory, but there's going to be glory in the end. And we just need to be those that make sure we complete things and we get things done, right? Like Easter, celebrated, everything else. Passover, Easter, and Rapture Day, those 3 days are the main days of the 3 different time periods. And just as important as Rapture Day is to us is how important Easter is to the Christians and Passover is to the Jews. It is that big. It's a day that God set them free. It was the greatest miracle that could have happened. And that's why they celebrate it as the biggest day of the year. All right? So there it is, guys. I hope that it's something that you guys can learn a lot when it comes to doing when it comes to what Easter is. And I know we learn a lot about it every single Easter also where Sunseam talks about it too. But remember, we are still, Jesus is so important to us. It's Jesus that has come back in spirit using the body of the man of mission. And that's why we still have to learn. We still need to understand very clearly and carefully what this should mean to us too. Okay, so there it is, guys. That's today's practical word study. I hope it's something that you guys really, really enjoyed as much as I have. We will have Provi in the media next. And of course, I'm not going to talk about the trial. I'm going to talk about something really big that's happening in Korea. We got to pray for this too. So it has to do with new laws that are possible to come into place that will hinder or even damage Providence too. All right, so there it is, guys. That is today's practical word study. Let's get into the last music break of the day.
We believe in the same God, but we are on different levels.
Put your hands in the sky if you feel alive. session. Oh my gosh, this feeling got me heat stroke. His love like a billion pots about to heat though. I ain't never breaking from this bond, cause you and I are only one.
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with?
Who you with?
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? You with? 주와 함께 together with the Lord every day, all day. 주와 함께 together with the Lord all day, all day. 주와 함께 together with the Lord every day, all day. 주와 함께 together with the Lord all day, all day.
Together with the Lord, I'm living my best life. Don't worry about a thing, you know it's only some in life. We sing about memory stories that we share. We'll fall deeper in love as we stop and just stare. My eyes only on you, they sparkle with love. Don't forget my charm too. There will never be another. Live this life only for you. I give you this promise that I will hold true.
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with?
Who you with?
If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? You with? 주와 함께 together with the Lord every day, all day. 주와 함께 together with the Lord all day, all day. 주와 함께 together with the Lord every day, all day. 주와 함께 together with the Lord all day, all day.
We believe in the same God, but we are on different levels.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment, which is Provi in the media. And of course, I still have to, I'm not going to do anything about Sunsteam's trial, anything else like this, but we are going to talk about a news that came up in Korea, new laws that could come into play. I'm going to read the article for you. It's pretty scary how this is actually turning out. So the title is Snowball of Damage from Pseudo-Religion or Cults. There must be strong regulations at the national level. So you can see where this is going. So let me get into the article. Heresy and pseudo-religion have caused serious damage through antisocial and criminal activities. They are the main culprit in destroying families and society. We must view this as a problem for the entire nation and actively deal with it. Victims of heresy and pseudo-religion made this appeal at the Korea Press Center in Cheonggu, Seoul on the 22nd, saying that the Cultological Religion Regulation Act must be enacted. On this day, the International Coalition for Countermeasures Against Pseudo-Religions held a press conference urging the enactment of a law to regulate pseudo-religions to publicize the damage caused by pseudo-religions and to explain the necessity of regulating pseudo-religions at the national level. They issued a statement saying, the damage caused by cult religions has led to antisocial criminal acts such as various religious frauds, family breakdowns, embezzlement, sex crimes, and social disputes, causing serious damage to the people. They added, the damage caused by cult religions is increasing. Social and political chaos is increasing, he pointed out. He then urged, rather than treat the issue of pseudo-religion as just a conflict between religions and ignore it, face the fact that anyone, anywhere, and your loved ones can be harmed by pseudo-religion and take action to enact laws to regulate pseudo-religion. On this day, victims who reported the harmful effects of heresy and pseudo-religion spoke with one voice saying, we must prevent further damage from occurring. It's pointed out that although the true nature of Shincheonji and JMS has been revealed and it has become a social problem, damage continues to be caused due to lack of popular regulatory measures. There was one man stood up, said, I lost 2 daughters to JMS. I thought that if JMS crimes were revealed and he was arrested, my daughters who were deceived and deluded by JMS would come back. Even if they were arrested, it was because JMS gathered together more enthusiastically and taught pseudo-false doctrines, he said. He said, pseudo-religion cannot be solved by arresting the cult leader, and added, if the harmful effects have already been revealed, there should be a law to regulate pseudo-religion that can take measures such as disbanding the organization and prohibiting teaching or proselytizing cult doctrine. Victims also raised various suspicions of corruption and pointed out the illegal activities of heretics and pseudo-organizations. right? So there's a person, head of the National Shincheonji Victims Network, said that he had received an internal tip about the illegal activities of the cult leader and Shincheonji leaders and reported to the prosecution. The representative said the atrocities of Shincheonji leaders, such as the embezzlement of 7.8 billion won by the leader's closest aunt, General Secretary, have begun to be revealed to the world by those who left. We need to regulate pseudo-religion so that religious leaders and their leaders can be severely punished, he emphasized. Also, the Gamil District Federation chairman also said the Church of God was caught on suspicion of illegal resale while purchasing religious land in the Gamil district, right? And is currently on trial. It took 4 years to get to this point, and thousands of residents have suffered damage. I'm appealing to you. I hope you will protect the law to prevent pseudo-religion from eroding the lives of our residents, right? Then the representatives of the victims group appealed at the press conference that day to prevent damage from cults. And they said, this one person is performing so-called spiritual energy healing on people, but my health has deteriorated to the point where I have cancer and can't see well. We have collected concrete evidence, submitted it to the police, and filed a complaint. And then they added, it is a time when a law to regulate antisocial religion is absolutely necessary. Please enact this law. So this chairman of this cult league said, the reality is that our country only has freedom of religion, and even if pseudo-religions deceive and harm the lives of the people, we just ignore them and do not take any regulations or measures. We are groaning. We urge the government and the National Assembly to create a countermeasures department that can prevent or investigate damage caused by cults and to enact laws to regulate cults. That's what's going on in Korea. And the one thing that's kind of scary is Korea, the politicians are very, very susceptible to these protests that come out, especially if a ton of people come out. They're going to think that if we don't do this, then all these people won't vote for us, right? And it's very scary to think that, like some of the things that you hear in this, like it's very, very interesting. I would say it's interesting, but it is, if you make these types of laws, what about Christian churches that have corruption, Christian churches that embezzle? And this is true. It happens all the time. Christian churches in Korea with embezzlement, Christian churches where they, there's like a sexual scandal, Christian churches where these bad things happen. Does that mean you're going to get rid of the Christian church then too? Because that same law should go down on them also. You know what I mean? So it's very scary that, like, who would set like pseudo-religion to who, to what? Christianity is only 25% of Korea. It's only 25%. There's more people doing Buddhism. So if you say pseudo-religion, would that be pseudo-religion to Christianity, which includes Buddhism? Or like, would it be Buddhism, which includes Christianity as a cult? Like, how far would this law actually go? Where would you control it? Like, who would make the lines? That would be a scary thing. What would make something absolutely a cult? If they're all teaching that Jesus is the Messiah. Do you know what I mean? So I would say it is something that we really have to think about very, very carefully. Like, I think Korea, we got to pray for this. Like, really, really have to pray for this. We have to pray for it too, because once this comes in, then what if there's rules where now if you were considered like a cult, you are no longer allowed to preach and it's illegal? That straight up sounds like what happened in, that sounds like what happened in the, the time of the early Christian church, where there were being Roman persecution, where it's against the law. That would be crazy if that happened in Korea. I think there would be a lot of people who would be very, very unhappy with this. So yeah, that's just a couple things in my head. That, yeah, it's pretty scary. It really is. But yeah, either way, that's something I think we should start praying about for Korea, because that's, think about this. What Sun Sim said. God is going to judge people according to how they treat the man of mission. And if they keep doing these types of things, man, it's going to be rough in Korea. Like, I would want to move away from Korea, kind of thing. Yeah. Either way, there it is, guys. That is Provi in the media. Hope it's something that you guys enjoyed and brings up new light of what is happening in Korea too. Please, go ahead, leave some comments below to hear what you guys are thinking. That is today's Tuesday podcast. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.